Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Magruder.
Dalton Phillips.
Welcome back, Dalton. We are talking some college football. Obviously, you probably had a pretty fun week one watching your worst rival
Yep.
lose and your best team dominate in a victory. For me, again, watching Tech lose sucked, but they did play good football. They were inspired at least. The defense looked great. So I didn't hate the week. Plus, I did get to hate watch Alabama as well. So
Yep.
I enjoyed that. Obviously, everybody joining in, like, subscribe, follow along, helps out a ton. And obviously, this is the first week with Dalton on this season. Hopefully, get him on here for the rest of the year, and maybe we'll have some people join us like we did last year. Pretty fun to do that. So we'll go ahead and dive into these games. Looking at our first one here. This is two teams that are expected to be pretty good in conference play for their conferences. Illinois, of course, number 11 team in the country. A lot of people high on them, say they can make the playoff. And Duke on the other side goes out and grabs an incredible transfer quarterback that we will talk about in just a second. That statistically could be one of the best in the ACC. Both starting 1-0 on the year. Looking at the Fighting Illini, Luke Altmaier returns at quarterback for them. Went 17 for 21 with 217 yards and three touchdowns in his first game. Thrown out to Beatty as his number one receiver, as he lost his number one receiver to the NFL last year. And then on the other side, for Duke, it's Darion Mensah, who was the starter at Tulane last year. A really good quarterback, probably a top five transfer quarterback in general. So they get a lot better out there at quarterback, although they had Malik Murphy, who wasn't horrible. And then Barcate is their leading receiver, 117 yards on five catches. So again, they played an ECU team, or no, they played Elon. They played Elon, who isn't really all that good. They beat him pretty bad, so we saw the offense kind of succeed. But the rushing attack on both sides is kind of the interesting debate because Lafrey on Illinois side goes off. Don't you got anything on them?
Yeah. Castle there is not truly their number one back. I see he had a really good game, apparently. Three rushes for 69 yards. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
But Jaquez Morris, their lead back, he was pretty good last year, went for like 700 yards almost. And that was behind a good back by Stark Thomas, which is now at Tennessee, Get Vols. And yeah, that's this a team that can run the ball because they have a decent backfield. As you can tell, their second string went for is their leading rusher, so that means they're distributing the ball pretty well.
Yeah, again, like I said before, this was two teams that were kind of hyped up
Yeah,
for the season starting. Again, we'll see what happens in this one because I think Duke getting this home, it's
yeah,
interesting. I still think Illinois is the better football team. Obviously, that's what we'll talk about in just a second, looking at the picks. Obviously, down here looking at defensive stats, you can see their sack leaders and tackle leaders. We'll update that as the season goes on and just follow along with who those leaders on defense are. Going back up to the top, it is, like I said before, a home game for Duke. And surprising enough, the ESPN analytics are favoring Duke with a 50.6% chance to win. That home field advantage definitely does help in college football. Illinois being the betting favorite. Dalton, who are you picking in this one and playing, taking place in
yeah.
your
And I'm going to go against you here. I know you don't like Duke at all, but I'm going to go Duke. I think I like this Illinois team, but I feel like the home field advantage just does it for this Duke team. And this Duke team, I think, is a ranked team after this week.
Yeah, if they got this win, they would 100% be
Yep.
ranked. Beating the top 11 team in the country would be huge for them. They'd be 2-0. And I think they are good enough to do this. They're a team that I thought going into the season, I was pretty high on saying that the ACC actually has some contenders this year that can compete at the upper level. And it's just because quarterback play. A lot of them went out and grabbed really good quarterbacks, and that's what wins you football games. But I am going to side with Illinois, and that is, I do hate Duke, but not as much in football. Part of that is I just think that Illinois is well coached. Brett Bielema, really good head coach for them, but also Luke Altmaier returning, just keeping the continuity in the offense. And they have to win to be able to compete. And they think this is their year. And if they don't win this one, it definitely sets them behind going into Big Ten play. So I think it's going to be a really good game. But yeah, give me Illinois on the road here. Moving on to our next game here. This is a big one. I mean, these two teams absolutely hate each other in the Cy-Hawk rivalry game. You could argue this is the game of the week when it comes to the two teams playing each other and how much they hate each other. This is always a very heated rivalry. Looking at the stats on the season, Mark Gronowski, of course, transfers in to play quarterback at Iowa. He didn't really have much of a week passing through the air. He only went 8 for 15 with 44 yards and a touchdown. He did scramble for one big play and had a couple times here and there he was running the ball, so he'll be able to do that. He's more of a dual threat guy. But their passing attack wasn't electric against a not very good team, so we'll see what they do in this upcoming week. And then on the other side, for the Cyclones, it's Rocco Becht returning at quarterback, and he's so far to me looked really good. 33 for 48, 5 touchdowns, 461 yards through the air. Of course, Eskildson is their lead receiver with 5 catches and a touchdown. And we talked about him after Farmageddon looking really, really good and becoming the guy that can maybe replace the two NFL receivers that they lost this year. So they are going to rely on their passing attack, but also love their running backs. Dalton, talk about Iowa State's running backs first.
Oh, Iowa State's got two backs, and I've always been high on one of them, which is their second string, or I wouldn't even call him a second string back because he's good. Abu Sama is the guy that is behind Carson Hansen, and Carson Hansen is a stud by himself too. They've got two great backs, and I'm looking over there at Iowa, and they filled the role with Caleb Johnson pretty good with the freshman. It looks like that guy had 11 carries for 122 yards. You can't ask for anything better. I don't care who you're playing. You
Yeah.
could be playing middle schoolers and then still a good stat
Yeah.
line there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's averaging over 10 yards per carry. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal from him. And like you said, it was hard for them to replace a guy that went to the NFL and was a top pick out of the running back group. But of course, he played really well. So we'll see what he can do against real big time competition in the Cyclones. And then, like you said before, with Carson Hansen and Abu Sama, they ran the ball really well against Kansas State, who was supposed to have a pretty good defense this year. So I'm excited to see what they can do because if they can really establish the ground game, we're talking about a team that can be pretty effective with the passing and ground game that they'll have. Going to make a pick in this one. Of course, this is taking place in Ames, Iowa. Iowa State getting the home game here, and that's the side I'm going to roll with. I think Rocco Becht, he's been really good so far this year. I think that their rushing attack, like you said when you're talking about Sama and Hansen, is really solid. I think they can win games via the ground if they don't have the passing game going, but I think they'll generally have that passing game going pretty well. So give me Iowa State to win by probably a score here because Iowa does usually keep it close.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that too because I just think that Iowa State team is very dominant. I watched them against Kansas State, and Kansas State's not a bad team, and they absolutely steamrolled them.
Yeah. It was again, it was a close game, but like Iowa State, if they don't make errors at times,
Yeah,
could have beat them by
that game's
more.
that's a 21-point game. If
Yeah.
they don't make error, that is errors. Yeah,
Yeah, and both sides again, just sloppy game week
yeah.
one play, but Iowa State confirmed it last week with another win, being 2-0, can move on to 3-0 if they get this one. This next game we're talking about here is the Baylor Bears going on the road to play SMU in Dallas, Texas at Gerald J. Ford Stadium. Of course, Baylor did not have the start to the season that they wanted, going out and losing that game to Auburn. Their defense probably, no, truthfully was the mistake. They were 38 points on defense they gave up to an Auburn team that didn't really pass the ball all that well. And then on the other side for SMU, they're looking to return to the playoff. That was a really good season from them last year, first year in a power conference, and they looked like a top team in the country. Of course, getting Kevin Jennings back is definitely a huge help for them. Looking at the stats, Sawyer Robinson, that's one game. 419 yards in that game against Auburn. He was passing the ball extremely efficiently. It's just their defense couldn't get stops. He goes 27 for 48, 3 touchdowns, of course, has those 419 yards. And his lead receiver is Cole Wilson on 8 catches, has 134 yards, as well as Michael Trigg, who had close to 100 with 99 yards last week. Those two guys are dynamic weapons. They have a really good quarterback who is, in general, just an effective playmaker. It's just can their defense get stops? They haven't really shown that to me yet. I mean, the 38 points to Auburn, again, that's not good, especially when they didn't have to throw the ball on you. They ran the ball a ton, and the Mustangs are a team that have a dual threat quarterback and multiple running backs. They work in and out of their system. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do to try to stop this team. And on the other side for SMU, of course, it's Kevin Jennings returning 22 for 30, 2 touchdowns, and an interception in his first game. Obviously, get rid of the interception. That's a really good stat line. He rushed for some yards here and there. Of course, he'll probably do that more effectively in this game. And then you look at their receiver, and Romello Brinson as their lead receiver. And they also return R.J. Maryland, who was a part of last year's team, an important piece that returns after injury from last season. And to the point he got hurt, he was really important to that roster. So we'll see what he brings to this team this year. Dalton, want to cover those running backs?
Yeah, SMU has a running back that everybody's name should recognize. That is CJ 2K Jr.
Yeah.
And he was at Miami last year. I talked about him a little bit at Miami. He didn't get that many carries at Miami, but I'm excited for him at SMU. I imagine he's their lead back,
Mhm.
point him out of the portal, and that's very important because this Mustangs team had a great running back last year, and he's in the NFL now. We're just gonna hope that he fills that role pretty well. And then on the other side, you have Washington. He had an okay game, but as with your passing the ball that much, you're not going to get that many carries. So I can't expect very much out of them, but I feel like this game will not rely on the running backs as much as what I can see. I feel like it's more of a air raid offenses here.
Yeah, and again, you're going to get the air raid for sure
Yeah,
from Baylor. I think SMU would love to establish the run
yeah,
game with the
yeah,
running quarterback and the running backs that they have. They're going to rotate a couple through, but
yeah.
Johnson ended up being their lead guy from last game and had a really big play. He busted out a big long run, which of course that makes sense when you know how fast his
Just
dad
like his
was.
dad was. Yeah.
Yeah, you can assume the speed he's probably going to have this season. Going to make a pick in this one. This is a really fun game taking place in SMU's home stadium. They're getting big time football games now. Being a ranked team, they're going to get the attention. They're going to have the fan base there. It's going to be packed. And I'm going to side with SMU, a team that before the season started, I wasn't as high on, but they were able to reproduce some of that offensive talent in the first game that they played, although it wasn't a super competitive one. And Baylor's defense looks terrible. And I don't know if I can bet on a defense that gives up 38 points in week one and then has to return and play SMU, who has a good quarterback, has good play calling in Rhett Lashley, and then just has overall good talent, returning their star tight end and having a receiver over 100 yards in the first game. I think SMU just gets it done here and probably a close game.
I'm also going to side with SMU because I feel like this team they're a playoff team again. I feel like they're going to be a contender in the ACC, and I feel like it's going to put them in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they definitely have the ability to contend in the ACC. They're a team that's probably top three, top four up there with Miami, Louisville, Clemson. And then, like you said before, it's Baylor on the other side, who we were high on before the year started as a team that could compete. If they start 0-2, man, that's a really rough start to the season going into Big 12 play. Going into our next game here, another Big 12 team going on the road to take on the Missouri Tigers. Of course, Missouri started out their season looking really solid on offense. That is all contributed to their starting quarterback, Bo Prabula, coming over from Penn State last year, where he had to make some starts. And then on the other side for Kansas, it is going to be the starting quarterback from last year, Jalen Daniels, who, when he is looking right, this offense is incredible. And there's not a lot that he does wrong. Last year, it wasn't really his fault. They were losing games. He made some turnover mistakes here and there, but he got them back in it at the end of the year. And they now look like the team that they look like they were at the end of the season last year. Looking at the Tigers' statistics, Bo Prabula again, 23 for 28, two touchdowns. Looked really good on the ground, actually. Rushed for a score, I believe, and had some just nice plays out of the backfield. He looks like a super solid quarterback for them. I think Penn State would have been really happy if he just stuck around and backed up Aller. It's just he didn't want to be a backup anymore. So he slides over to Missouri and looks solid. Of course, you look at the receiver in Johnson, five catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. Looks like he still has elite threats on the outside, although he lost Theo Weiss and Luther Burden to the NFL. That was kind of a worry for them, is how would they replace that kind of production on the outside. On the other side for the Jayhawks, Jalen Daniels, 36 for 45, seven touchdowns, 456 yards through two games. If they got that kind of passing attack going and the way they are able to run the ball, this is a scary, scary team in Kansas who won games, like I said, towards the end of the season last year. And then you look at their lead receiver in Henderson, nine catches, two touchdowns. So he's averaging per 4.5 catches, he's scoring a touchdown. So Jalen Daniels definitely loves him. That is his lead target. And again, we'll see what both of these teams do in this game. Dalton, cover these halfbacks.
Yeah, for Kansas, you have Daniel Hishaw Jr., and that guy's averaging over 5 yards a carry. Great running back, following behind Devin Neal. That guy was a stud, and he's going to show out in the NFL. I'm sure he's an athlete. And you have another stud from ULM, Ahmad Hardy. That guy was a stud at where he was at before. The competition's a little bit different than the SEC, but I
Yep.
imagine he's still going to show out.
Yeah, again, looks really, really good. In his first game, 10 carries, 100 yards, averaging 10 yards per carry. Got a touchdown as well. A bruising running back that is going to probably stick around with Missouri for a few years, and they love him. And then, like you said, Hishaw Jr. looked really good in his two games so far. If they can just establish ground game, that passing attack with Kansas has looked really deadly so far. And same for Missouri. I mean, 283 yards from Prbula, no matter who you're playing, it's a solid game. Going to make a pick here. Again, I think that these two teams are really close in talent. I think that this ESPN predictor is kind of off. I think that Kansas, again, is going to be really good in the Big 12. Missouri, I loved what I saw week one. And just because this game is taking place in Memorial Stadium in Columbia, Missouri, I'm taking the Missouri Tigers. I don't know if Kansas can hang around with them in certain aspects of the game. Missouri does recruit a little bit better, just being an SEC school, have a little bit more talent. I do like Bo Prabula. I love Ahmed Hardy. That's probably my favorite running back in the conference this year. So I expect the Missouri Tigers to get a super close win here over the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and defer from you here. I'm going to go to Kansas. If I'm anybody betting, I'm not encouraging that, but I'm taking the spread right now because I feel like this will be a very good game,
Hmm.
very very good game,
Yeah,
and I
again,
can see it coming down between a field goal because these team both offenses are very good,
yeah.
and that's just what I expect to happen. I feel like it's gonna be a shootout.
Yeah, 6.5. You're getting a lot if you're riding with the
Yeah,
Jayhawks on this one.
yeah,
Moving on to our next game here. It is the ETSU Buccaneers going on the road to play Tennessee. Again, we're covering this one due to Dalton's fandom of them. This should be a blowout, the way Tennessee's defense looked, especially week one. But ETSU is pretty solid in the FCS and definitely can be a team that competes in that conference or in that division of football this year. Looking at the statistics here, I'll cover all to ETSU and then let Dalton go on Tennessee. So, Cade McNamara, of course, starting quarterback at ETSU. That is an incredible fall from the grace that he had at one point. Being the starter for a national championship team in the Michigan Wolverines, where he was then dethroned by J.J. McCarthy, transferred over to Iowa, faced injury, finally got a start last season, and then transferred again down to the FCS level, where he is now the starting quarterback for the ETSU Buccaneers. An unreal fall. But again, if he can succeed here, maybe he just writes his story and finishes it with a good year at ETSU. Then you look at their running back in Devontae Houston, and in that one game, he goes 14 carries, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Really, really good day on the ground. Again, playing against way lesser talent than he'll be playing against in Neyland Stadium, but a really good game from him. And then, of course, Jeremiah Harrison, lead receiver, 3 catches and a touchdown, 56 total yards. And overall, this team, they're solid. They lost their head coach. He goes on to the college ranks and ends up coaching at a decent school in the FBS. So they have a lot up to replace. They have a scheme to replace, a system to replace. But again, a former FBS high level quarterback could maybe win you some games in the FCS. Dalton, give me what you got on Tennessee.
yeah. Talking about quarterbacks, Joey Aguilar really impressed me on Saturday. I was watching this game while I was going to a concert in Huntington at Marshall Stadium. I was watching it while driving. Don't condone that either. But I had to watch just see how we were doing, and he looked very very good.
Yep.
I'm very impressed. He underthrew a few balls and overthrew a few balls, but that's to be expected.
Mhm.
You're trying to figure your receivers out. And what helped him out was their backfield. We have three stud running backs, and that's the guy. They all got in the end zone somehow. Star Thomas got a receiving touchdown. Then Peyton Lewis got in the end zone with the rushing touchdown, and so did Deshaun Bishop.
Mhm.
And that's three running backs that are all very, very good.
Mhm.
And I'm excited just to watch that aspect because I love seeing Tennessee run the ball. It's just like how we used to.
Yeah. Last season.
That's how we became Tennessee. And we ran the ball. And we kind of deferred back that from that couple years ago. And love to see like we had a great running back last year and it just keeps following along. I love to see that. And also, we have receivers, Staley and Brazel, and those guys are both very good. Chris Brazel was impressing me last year, and I was looking for Braylon Staley to just show out, and he played pretty good in week one. So you can't ask for any better than 95 yards. And I mean, all this offense, and then you look at one of the best defenses in the country. And we've had that last year. We had the best defense, and in my opinion, we had one of the best defenses,
Yeah,
not
they
the
have one of
best,
for
but
sure.
yeah, I would say at least a top 10, if not
Yeah.
top five defenses. And we just filled that role like very well. Like we have a great cornerback room, which we were one question last year, but then it looked in and then we actually were good.
Mhm.
And we just like keep adding talent and talent. And I love to see it because it's just exciting. I'm as a Tennessee fan, I was shocked to see Joey Aguilar like thrive like he did. And I love seeing Nico suck,
Yeah.
by the way. Yeah, he absolutely played terrible, and it made me realize, man, I'm glad I don't have that guy anymore.
Yeah, I'll be talking over them later in this
Yeah,
video. I'll give a little
yeah,
hate to them for you. And
yeah. I can't. That really made my day. Like not only Tennessee winning made my day, and Alabama losing too. That was another one. That was great too.
yeah.
But that made my day very very much better, way better.
Yeah.
And
Again, like you said, Tennessee's defense, they do look good again. They give up 26 points, but it was once they had a huge lead, they did start to kind of give up some points here and there, a
yeah,
couple lapses. That's going to happen in your first game. But I do expect that they'll have another top 20, top 15 defense yet again. And Aguilar, the way he played, they had the deep ball available in this game. And that was an issue
mhm.
they had with Nico last year was missing those deep balls over the top. He was really good in the intermediate passing game and the short passing game because of his ability to get out of the pocket and make plays. And Aguilar brings you that ability to
Yep,
make plays. But he also had the deep ball locked in. And yeah, he missed here and there. Like you said, that's expected. Everybody misses throws. It's nobody's a robot other than Patrick Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen in the NFL. But I expect that Tennessee will be very competitive yet again in the SEC. I don't know if this team will return to their dominance they were last year in the SEC, where they were able to beat up on Alabama. But again, maybe they do again this year just because Alabama ain't as good. I
Yeah.
mean, there's been a stark fall off for Alabama. It's been something I didn't expect. I thought that they would continue to be good, but maybe not the best. And the way that they've lost four against unranked teams, and Saban lost four his entire career there.
Took
So
him 128 games to lose four games,
yeah.
to lose four. Yeah, that's
So
insane to
maybe
me. Like,
Tennessee does have their number yet again. Of course, be much harder traveling to the stadium they play in though
yeah,
this year.
I'll be there too, and I'm hoping they do. I'll
That's a
probably
crazy
cry if
one.
they don't.
Had to get our fill in on a little Tennessee talk since Dalton's on for the first time today. Obviously, we'll move on to making this pick. Dalton, I'll pick it first just so you can rant on just a little bit more. I'm obviously going to take Tennessee in this one. I'm going to take them to cover the spread, whatever it is. I do think that this team does have an offense that can score, but on top of that, this defense was able to stop teams from scoring last year, return some of their talent. No way an ETSU team can put up a lot of points on them. I'll take Tennessee big.
Yeah, I'm actually going to defer from you here, Maggard. I'm going to go with ETSU, my soon-to-be future school. Good Bucks. But no, I'm definitely going Tennessee here. I'm excited. They really surprised me. I was expecting the Syracuse game to be a lot, even though everybody was talking Syracuse wasn't that good. I was afraid we were going to come out and be a slow just team at first. But we did the same thing last year. We played the NC State, and the NC State was really good, and then were really really bad.
Yeah.
So you don't know what to know. Like you don't know like what's going to happen. This game is just uh, keep your guys healthy to go to Georgia.
Yep.
Play at Georgia, and if you can play with Georgia, play a close game. I don't think we're going to win. I mean, I would hope we do, but I don't think we're going to win. But if we play a close game with Georgia, shoot, Alabama's a couple weeks, and then you have Oklahoma, and then those are two huge games there,
Yeah.
and then you're contending for an SEC title. So,
Yeah, if you can take like
yeah,
you said out of those three you just named, if you can somehow
if you
take
take two, if you take two,
yep,
you're competing for the
you're
SEC.
looking really good in conference
Yeah,
play. And even if you
yeah,
took just one of three, you're probably still a playoff team. So
yeah.
it's definitely because of the way the schedule lines up for the SEC. It's definitely a big deal that they end up playing those games this year. And of course, needed like we said before, they have to catch at least one of them, potentially two of them. It depending on how they're looking when they play those teams. That'll be all for Dalton. He's gonna have to move on out of here, get him rolling. So again, Dalton, if you want to say your send off before you head out.
See y'all. Peace. Go Vols.
Next game we're talking about here is the University of South Florida Bulls taking on the Florida Gators. Of course, USF after a huge win last week, they get the huge upset, or yeah, pretty big upset. I mean, Boise State was the favorite out of the group of five, and USF kind of walked the floor with them. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was a blowout. And then Florida, of course, they as you can tell, their lead passer is their backup quarterback because they won by so much. They were able to take their starter out of the game, of course, in DJ Lagway. So dive into these stats. For USF, it's Byron Brown as the quarterback. I talked about him in our recap video. Byron Brown is incredible. He really has put himself up there as one of the quarterbacks in the country you have to pay attention to. You have to watch because of his rushing ability, but also a pretty good passing game there. 16 for 24, 210 through the air. And then, of course, their running back, Alvin Isaac, goes 3 carries, 52 yards, but he wasn't the lead rusher, or wasn't supposed to be their lead rusher. Only 3 carries in that game. So they have a multitude of backs. Brown will get his thing going on the run game as well. He'll be able to put up some yards in that area for them on their offense. And then for the receiver, it's Chaz Nimrod. Of course, Dalton just talked Vol football. Well, there's a Vol football transfer. 3 catches for 96 yards in that one. Had a pretty good game, and of course. They expect him to be back and do more for them, and he also could have even had more in that game. Talked about it in my recap that Brown missed just a couple over the top. Nimrod could have maybe went for 130, 140 yards in this one, so really good game from him. And on the other side, it's DJ Lagway as the starter. He threw for like 128 yards, 3 touchdowns. So Jones Jr. technically leading passer with 12 or 18, 131 and 2 touchdowns, but Lagway was the guy to talk about. Jaden Baugh rushes for over 100 on only 9 carries and has a touchdown. returner from last year's team, going to be really important to this year's team. And then, of course, Brown the third, 3 catches for 79 yards. They expect a lot out of their receiving core. They expect a lot out of their running back room. And, of course, DJ Lagway, a guy that some people had as a potential Heisman contender this year, they've got to get their offense rolling in this one because if you don't come out early and punch them in the mouth, USF is going to stick around in this game. So we'll see how the Gators handle their first true test in the University of South Florida Bulls, of course, taking place in Gainesville, Florida. And now go ahead and dive into making our pick here. Dalton is going to side with the crazy upset for the USF Bulls going into Gainesville and getting a huge win in the swamp. That would be an incredible game for them. That would almost like I mean, you have to do something crazy in conference play to blow the lead you would have on the rest of the group of five if you got to win over a top 13 team in the SEC. That would be so big for South Florida. And again, Byron Brown can put this game in a kind of a weird place because he can make plays and maybe they can find themselves in this one late and somehow pull it off. But for me, I'm going to side with Florida. I don't think South Florida has the ability to compete in the late game, especially once they're tired down. They just don't have the substitutes. They won't have the rotations. I do think Byron Brown's style of play can end up getting him hurt too, because of course he wants to run the ball. He's an aggressive quarterback. He lowers his shoulder, tries to run people over. So we could see him, face some snaps here and there where he's a little bit less than 100%. And of course, Florida just has so much talent on this roster. Again, I just think Florida will take this one. I think it will be close for a while, but I think by the second half, Florida will pull away with this one. But of course, this is going to be a fun game because what if with USF? Moving on to our next game here, it is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers going on the road to play the Toledo Rockets. And of course, Toledo, coming back this season, supposed to be one of the top contenders in the group of five, could potentially reach a playoff spot with their starting quarterback in Tucker Gleason behind the helm again. And then on the other side, of course, for Western Kentucky, starting the year 2-0, two big wins, can get a third one here that would really push them up the rankings and potentially put them up there with USF and potentially UNLV in the conversation of who is the group of five representative for now in the playoff. Looking at the statistics, of course, with WKU, Maverick McIver has been incredible. Throws for 400 in his first game, close to 300 in his second game, 706 total yards in the season, 8 touchdowns through the air. This is a high-powered Western Kentucky offense, and of course, they've done this in the past. They always have good offenses, good passing attacks, especially. Then you look at their running back in Marvis Parrish, only 16 carries total on 2 games. So, like I said before, they're going to pass the ball a lot. 71 total yards for him. And then Matthew Henry being the lead receiver, 9 catches, 2 touchdowns, almost 190 yards. He's been really, really good. He's been McIver's top target through the first 2 games. And then on the other side for the Rockets, Tucker Gleason, like I said before, returns at quarterback, 23 for 40, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They do lose their first game of the season, but again, they have the ability to be really good in the MAC conference. I expect a lot out of this Toledo team. You go down to their running back and Chip Trayanum, and of course, he only has 14 carries, 41 yards. That's again against a power school, so it's not the best performance ever. We'll see what he can do against Western Kentucky. And then Junior Vander Ross is the lead receiver, 7 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Gleason has found the target that he trusts in his first game of the season, and we'll see how they use Vander Ross and how they use this run game against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, who are going to score a lot of points. They are a very high-powered offense, and of course, I love Maverick McIver. I have a lot of faith in him this year. I think he can actually put this team over the top, and so far, he has definitely looked like he has that ability to do so. Going to make a pick in this one, taking place in the Glass Bowl in Toledo. I'm going to take the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I'm taking WKU. I know that they are the betting underdog. I know that they're the underdog in the ESPN analytics, but WKU is just the team I want to pull for this year. I love Maverick McIver. I think it's one of the best names in college football. He's an incredible quarterback. He's thrown for 700 yards. He hasn't made mistakes yet. So I want to pull for this Western Kentucky team. So when I'm watching this one on Saturday, I'm going to be pulling for WKU, which I won't be able to watch it. I'll be in Tech Stadium watching them play, but I'll have a WKU in my heart, pulling for WKU. And then Dalton is also going to side with WKU. So we're both riding with the Hilltoppers and hoping they come out with a big victory here over Toledo. Moving on to our next game here, it is the Michigan Wolverines taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. This is a massive game. This is college game day. This is the biggest game of the week on paper for sure. Two ranked football teams, two teams that are aspiring to be in the playoff this upcoming season and especially compete in their conferences. You look over at Michigan, and both these teams, of course, being led by new quarterbacks, but Michigan being led by a five-star, number one overall player in the class, Bryce Underwood. An incredible performance from him in his first ever college football game. Goes 21 for 31, 251 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, that's really good. That's really promising because this team could not throw the ball at all last year. It was embarrassing how bad their passing offense was. They did not find a quarterback last season at all, but now they have found one. They've got Bryce Underwood, and he does look like he's going to be really good for them this year. Of course, lead back is going to be Justice Haynes, transferring over from Alabama. He is really good. He's probably a top 10 back in the country. He goes 16 carries, 159 yards, nearly averaging 10 yards per carry, and three touchdowns on the ground. That's incredible from him. Again, he's going to punch in a ton of touchdowns this season. They are going to be really scary to face this year. Justice Haynes is a really sick running back, and Bryce Underwood has drastically improved this passing attack for Michigan. Of course, their tight end is their lead receiver, six catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. And always, Michigan's defense is going to be one of the best in the country. So I expect a ton out of this Michigan team. But let's not slight the Sooners. Move over and talk about them here. In Heisman hopeful John Mateer, who throws for nearly 400 yards in week one on a 30 for 37 game, three touchdowns, and an interception. And then on top of that, he has the rushing ability of any quarterback in the country. He's up there with Haynes King that I spoke about, saying he was probably the best. John Mateer can do this. He can be a lead rusher for your team, and of course they have Jay Knott at running back, who doesn't have the game he wants here. Probably will be a very key role in this Michigan game. Blaylock is the lead back in their first game, and then Keontez Lewis is the lead receiver for John Mateer, and in one game he goes nine catches, 119 yards, two touchdowns from Mateer. An incredible performance from him. Mateer has found his favorite target early on, and that's really important to establishing the passing game. And I think that this Oklahoma offense is going to be one of the most dynamic offenses in the country with a really great quarterback at the helm. Moving up to make a pick in this game, taking place in Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma. This is a big game. This is a really, really big game. This is two teams that, like I said before, they think they can get back in the playoff conversation. Michigan coming off what was a national championship run 2 years ago, and of course Oklahoma trying to bounce back after what was a couple rough seasons. Now they have a better quarterback, they have a better running back, they just have an overall better system, and I'm going to take the Oklahoma Sooners in this game to get a first massive win for the season. I think that they'll move inside that top 15. They'll be a team, again, in the SEC that everybody has to watch out for. This defense is going to be good because they generally have a good defense, but this quarterback is incredible. Watch John Mateer. I think that there is probably very few quarterbacks in the country that are better than him. I do think Michigan will keep this close because of the two defenses. It's probably going to be even a low-scoring game, but I do expect Oklahoma to take this one. And then for Dalton, on the other side, he's siding with Michigan. He's siding with the Wolverines. He's siding with the incredible defense, and he's taking the super talented quarterback that has all the potential in the world in Bryce Underwood. But I am just riding higher on the Oklahoma Sooners and their depth. And then, of course, Venables getting his big, massive victory that he needs in his career over at Oklahoma. Moving on to our next game here, the UCLA Bruins on the road to Allegiant Stadium to play UNLV. An interesting early Big Ten team traveling to play UNLV, a Mountain West school, in their stadium. And of course, UNLV gets the start to the season that they want with a 2-0, but they had an ugly start when you talk about their first game. They were playing pretty poor against an Idaho State team that, of course, shouldn't be all that great. And they were down most of that game, come back to win at 38-31. So we'll see how they play in this one against their first power opponent. Looking over at UCLA's quarterback room, of course, the big story is Nico Iamaleava is the starting quarterback. He didn't have the performance he wanted in the first game of the season. He goes 11 for 22, one touchdown, one interception, only 136 yards. He had the similar issues that he had at Tennessee last season, where he would miss throws over the top. He was kind of inaccurate down the field. Those issues, they still kind of seemed apparent, and they have to be fixed if he's going to be a good quarterback, if he's going to be an NFL player. And I just don't see it yet. I don't see that he is that talented. I think Tennessee may have won that trade. maybe Joey Aguilar is just the thing they needed. And Nico comes down here and struggles. Like I said before, he also was their leading rusher, which doesn't help him at all. That doesn't mean it's not all on him if they can't get anything going on the ground and establish any kind of run game. What can he do if he has to kind of sit back there and pass when they all know he's passing? So he was their lead rusher. I do think that they can try to get that going better against UNLV, whose defense has looked kind of scary at points in a bad way. And then for Woods, at also the lead receiver was a running back. So just in general, poor game from them. They get blown out by Utah. We'll see what they can do here playing UNLV, who is a really good group of five team. We look over at UNLV. Starting quarterback Anthony Calandria looked really good in his first two games. 34 for 44, three touchdowns, does have the one interception, 444 yards. He has pretty much confirmed himself as the full-time starter over Alex Orji with the two games that he's played in. And I think this is a huge one for him. This is how much can you do against a power school, your first one since playing at Virginia. And I think, again, I think he's a good quarterback. He has a scrambling upside. He has some pretty good passing upside. I just think he's a good quarterback. I think they landed a nice one in the portal here, so I think he'll get things going on the ground potentially, but also through the air early on. Then you look at their lead back in Jaden Thomas, who is incredible. 212 yards on only 19 carries with four touchdowns. Of course, scoring three in that first game. He is unreal. This is a huge advantage for UNLV is how good their running game is with a quarterback and a running back combo that can run the ball at a very high level. And then, of course, you look down at Bradley being the lead receiver, 12 catches, 256 yards and a touchdown. More than a half of Calandria's yards have went over to Jaden Bradley. So, of course, he's expected to be their stud early on, and he will be the guy that Calandria probably goes to quite often in this game. So I expect a lot out of Bradley going into this big one against their first power conference opponent. Going to make a pick in this one. Of course, like I said before, being played at UNLV, they are somehow the heavy ESPN matchup predictor analytic favorite, but they are the betting underdog. So if you wanted some upside here, maybe you take UNLV in the points. I am going to side with UNLV here. I think UNLV, they have Dan Mullen at head coach. I think he lined things out after that first game. I think that they've now kind of got it figured out. Not that they're going to be, some world beater team against a power conference school, but I expect them to win this game. I expect Calandry to play good football. I expect Jaden Thomas to have an unreal game. And if Nico struggles at all, UNLV can pounce on that and take this one. And Dalton's siding with me too. Of course, he said, I hate Nico Iamaleava, so I hope they lose every game they play this year. He wanted me to make sure I told you all that. So he is siding with UNLV. He hopes UCLA goes 0-12 this season. So we'll see what goes on the rest of the year for them. But we're going to take the UNLV Rebels to get another huge win and be 3-0 in kind of the driver's seat in the Group of Five conference, them and USF, of course. Moving into our last one here, it is the Vanderbilt Commodores going on the road to play the Virginia Tech Hokies. And this is a massive game for the Hokies. This is a massive game for Vanderbilt. They have this marked down as a must-win game for them if they wanted to compete and try to make a playoff run this year. Of course, Diego Pavia believes that they can do that. And the Hokies, they have to bounce back after what was an incredible defensive performance. But again, not being able to score a touchdown was really rough, and they have to be able to do that in this game. I do expect Tech's offense to be better in this one, and we'll see what happens. Let's dive into the stats here. Of course, you know the quarterbacks for these two teams if you've watched us pod, but of course you know Diego Pavia, 20 for 25, 275 through the air, three touchdowns. Also brings you an incredibly high rushing upside, which again, they played a nobody week one, but they scored 45 points, which means their offense is high level. They can definitely score with the best of them. I do think that they return the talent too that helps them a lot. They return their starting running back. They return their best tight end, who is arguably the best tight end in the entire country, and they return their quarterback, who obviously changed their season and probably the trajectory of Vanderbilt football last year. I do believe, however, that Diego Pavia he's controllable if you saw what we did to Lenoris. If we were able to control him and contain him, he's better. He's better than Diego Pavia as a talent. And we were able to control and contain him most of the game. If we can do that, I think we can get to Pavia and control him too. We'll just see what happens when it comes to play calling and scheme. Cedric Alexander, of course, the lead back for Vanderbilt, 12 carries, 83 yards. And Eli Stowers is the lead receiver or lead tight end. Four catches, 86 yards, but there was games last year where he had 10 plus targets, so I expect he'll be used heavily in the passing game. And then going over to the Hokies side, Kyron Drones is the leader at quarterback. He has to play better this game. You saw that there was some upside there. He made some throws. He had some really nice contested catches from his receivers as well. He was able to use his legs just a little bit. It wasn't much, but you just have to see him play better. You can't throw the early pick like he did in the first game. Of course, the second pick being completely, it's null and void. The pick he threw was on a fourth down where he had to throw the ball up. You can't just take a sack. I was fine with that one. That mistake is okay. But 15 for 35 is unacceptable. I know some of those were drops, and I do think that those are issues that can be fixed because we do have good receivers, I feel like, that need to catch those passes, but also he needs to make some better throws. This is the game you line it out, you get things going, and this could be a really good run that they go on here if they can get a win here, which is a very big game, like I said before. Marcellus Hawkins is the lead rusher for Virginia Tech, and I thought he looked really good coming up from the Division II level. 15 carries for 58 yards. He showed some flashes. He busted off a couple 10-plus yard runs, but I don't think we have the depth there yet. So I'm hoping Terrion Stewart is healthy because if we return Terrion Stewart with the combination of Marcellus Hawkins, we have the inside run game and the zone outside run game, as well as using Hawkins in maybe a couple passing down situations, whereas Stewart is going to be that red zone back and that power back up the middle. But if they can get that combo going, this can be a really good rushing attack, especially because your quarterback can run well as well. So I expect a lot out of them here. I think that they got to fix things, they got to figure things out, but it is very, very good if they get Terrion Stewart back because he's such a key piece of this offense. And then you go over and you look at the receiving, and of course, lead receiver Donovan Green had an incredible game. 3 catches, 94 yards. He had multiple contested catches, had a very good catch and run. So he showed you all the flashes to be a lead receiver and to be a stud receiver, which he showed in the past he can be. Injuries, of course, derailing most of his career. And then you look at the second receiver in Aiden Green, who had 12 targets in this game. So Tech is going to use him a lot. It seems like he could be Kyron's favorite target on the outside potentially. Of course, I think Donovan Green is the best receiver, but Aiden Green and him have a dynamic that they've worked together before. I do think that Green needs to fix his drops. Aiden Green had a couple drops that were just kind of they were catchable balls, and especially one over the middle that would have been a first down on a 3rd and 10 that just has to be caught. It has to be converted. So I think once he lines those things out, again, he's going to have an unreal season. He had an incredible catch on a penalty that would have put him over 100 yards on the day, and he would have been the lead receiver for Virginia Tech. So this receiving core in general, I love Isaiah Spencer. I love Cam Seldon. I think Takai Heath still has upside at the slot position, and of course Benji Gosnell. I hyped him up. I think this is a really good tight end duel. Even though Stowers has got the statistics, I think Gosnell has the talent as well to be up there and compete in this game and be one of our lead targets. I'm just hoping that overall this offense keeps up the play calling that they had, which I thought was pretty good overall. And then drones just a little bit more completions, less drops, a little bit better on the ground once we get Terry on back. And overall, I think this offense could be good with a really, really talented defense. Of course, you see El fall as the lead in the sack category, but we also had plenty of players pick up either a half a sack or a sack. A lot of TFLs in this one, as well as Quentin Reddish being the leading tackler from the safety position. I expect a lot out of Tech this game. This is a huge one. This is probably Brent Pry's job riding on the line. Now, again, I'm not going to say he's going to get fired here. He definitely will not be fired at all. It would be stupid to do that. But if he starts the season 0-2 yet again, and we haven't won a power game outside of conference play since 2017, if you have that image, it's going to be so hard to go 7-5 even, and people be happy about it because you dropped your first 2 games against your 2 big opponents to start the season. This is to me almost a must-win game, and I do think Tech has the ability to win this one. They are very talented on defense. Their play calling is incredible, and I'll give you Dalton's pick first. Kind of build up a little bit more on the hype of it. Dalton, he said he thinks Vanderbilt is a good football team, but he's going to side with Virginia Tech. He thinks that Tech's defense, again, has the ability to be good this season. Of course, they flashed what could be a really good defense at times in that South Carolina game. And then moving over to my pick, which is going to be my first optimistic, super excited pick of the season, where I'm going to take the Virginia Tech Hokies. I think that Hokie football could be back. You win this one. The defense looked incredible. You got a great kicker, which leads to your special teams being good. But also, Price said he's going to adjust some things on special teams. He said we had too many, linemen on the field. We had 2 or 3 linemen on the punt return who missed tackles because they just aren't athletic enough. where you could have a linebacker or a tight end on the field that can also still be big, block if needed, but also can run down a guy, make a play. So I do think we can fix our special teams issues. I think our offense will get better, and our defense is going to be all over Pavia. I love that our defense is as good as it has been. I expect the D line to wreak havoc once again, and I think the Hokies are going to get it done in Blacksburg. A massive first win to start the season for the Hokies. That's going to be it for this week's episode. Of course, I had a ton of fun making these selections. Had Dalton on for the first time this season. Once we got into the season, actually, we talked a little bit before the season. But of course, really great episode, I think. I had a lot of fun again, like I said. I do expect that there's going to be a lot of good games this week. It does look a lot weaker when you look at the overall matchups compared to week one, because, of course, week one we had three top 10 games who all kind of lived up to the hype of being a top 10 game. But I do think that. There's a couple games to watch for. USF Florida could get very interesting. Of course, Michigan Oklahoma, where game day will be. First one without old Lee, but I do know he'll be watching, and they'll probably have something they say about him because, of course, again, he is the go to sports media, so they love him. I love him. Most of the college football world does. I'm so excited for Saturday, being back in Lane Stadium, being back for the first Inter Sandman of the season, where it's a full packed 66,000 fans going crazy, pulling for the Hokies. And I expect a lot. This better be the win that you get, because again, it's going to be some problems if you don't. I do think we have the ability to do so. I am very optimistic about this one because again, if we get that defensive performance and the ability to control and contain Sellers, just shows me we have the ability to do that to all the rushing quarterbacks this year, because this is a guy that's top 10 in Heisman odds. He's a guy that is incredible. I think we can do that to him. We can do that to anybody. So give me the Hokies going in here, getting a big win. I'm so excited for it. If you guys love these videos and follow along with us, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps get the video out there, get things rolling. Of course, I said before on our recap video, but I am doing another podcast called Mostly Hokies, which we will be releasing, I think, believe before the game, maybe Friday morning or Saturday morning potentially. We'll also be going over the Vanderbilt game in that video, so get some more opinions there, get my opinions that I've shared here, but also a little bit more in depth there because we spend all our time on the Hokies pretty much. But of course, this has been so much fun. Again, I love you guys for tuning in and watching it. It helps out a ton, and just makes the content worth creating over and over and over. I'll always have fun doing these videos and studying the analytics and just looking into sports and college football specifically, which I think is probably the best sport on earth. I am so excited to see the Hokies in Lane Stadium. Peace.